Hi, so we're going live. We're live on LinkedIn, and we're looking at how you can avoid the overwhelm when writing a book, overwhelm for yourself and overwhelm for the reader. I've got some slides to share with you, and I would really be happy if anybody has questions or comments, if you just pop it into the comments field and I'll handle them as we go along. I do have a pet fly today, so I'm just preparing you for the pet fly's appearance. Just really love me today. So what are we talking about? Let's get started. Today we're talking about how I've got 4 sessions I'm going to run over the next 4 Wednesdays in September, and we're talking about how you can stop the overwhelm and why short beats long to help your reader, and not only to help your reader, but it will also help you. And the thing is, you might find this for yourself, is when you're trying to reach your target audience, there's just nothing that beats a really well-written business book. So whatever business you're in, whatever level you're in, whatever field you're in, a well-written business book is a real business growing asset. But it's really hard to get right. And there are lots and lots of books out there that are very badly written, and basically they never get read. They never deliver what the very smart person who wrote them was hoping for. And this for a number of reasons, and we're going to have a look at some of those reasons and why it's also quite challenging for people. That was my pet fly then, you just probably saw him zoom past my head. Anyway, why are you writing a book in the first place? Why do you want your book to be read and referred? Because you could just write a book and just go, yeah, I've written a book, and not worry about it. Well, the reason you want your book to be read and referred is because when the person reads it, when the reader reads the book that you spent all this time and energy and effort making based on your experience and all the stuff and the knowledge that you have, they're going to get a transformation. If you've written the right book and you've written it well, then the reader will get a transformation. Their life will be better, whether it's their personal life, their family life, their business life, whatever it is, whatever you wrote that book. If they read it, their life will be better. You don't want them to just buy the book or ignore the book, okay? If they read your book, we want them to read your book. If they read your book, they're going and get that transformation that you've been promising, that you've included in your book, that you've worked really hard to demonstrate in your book. If they get that transformation, they're going to tell people about it. They're going to tell their friends. They're going to write testimonials. They're going to buy copies for their friends and their colleagues. They're going to talk about your book on social media and in their groups and to their mom and to their business colleagues. So they'll talk about your book, and that is inbuilt marketing. Okay, this takes all the stress off marketing if people are talking about your book for you. They will also, if they've read your book and got that transformation, they will also quote your book in their books and their articles and online and wherever else your target market, the people you want to influence, are. And you're going to actually, the reason we write books in the first place, you're going to actually make that impact that you've been desiring to make. So you know it's really important that you write a book that gets read. You know that that's something that you want to do. And the challenge is actually getting it done. Okay, so my pet fly is really annoying me today, so do excuse him. The problem is we're doing it all wrong. Of course, we're probably doing it all wrong. You know, just who hasn't told you some recently that you're doing it all wrong? But the problem is we are doing it all wrong. And it's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's not our fault that we're doing it wrong. It's a hangover, basically. It's where we've ended up. The traditional publishing methodology, paradigm, whatever you want to call it, is wrong. It's too slow. It's the time scales are just too long. It's really expensive for the publisher. I ran a publishing business. It's really an expensive business model. So it's expensive. It takes too long, and you don't get that turnaround of idea fast enough. Hybrid and self-publishing models means that anybody with some cash and a bit of know-how can get their ideas published, which from a democracy type of point of view seems like a really good idea. But what it's led to is there are lots of books out there that are really quite pants, and these books are diluting the benefit of having a business book. So they're not really helping themselves and they're not helping us. And some of these books, they're repetitive, they're boring, they're just there because the person wanted to have their name on a book. Which leads me on to the point number 3, which is, does it just feel like everybody is writing a business book at the moment, like everybody, because they've been told to buy writing coaches and marketing coaches and business coaches and their mate down the pub, and everybody's saying, write a book, it's magic. I'm a writing, marketing and business coach, and my advice is stop writing books that nobody reads. I frequently tell people don't write a book. I frequently tell people the book is not the right thing. But the most important thing I say to everybody is stop writing books that nobody reads, because you're wasting your time and you're wasting your readers' time. And this is what I want to talk to you about over these next 4 sessions, about how you can avoid that problem, how you can reduce the chance that you're going to write a book that nobody will read. I'm Deb Jenkins. I just thought I'd introduce myself finally. Just in case you don't know me, I'm Deb Jenkins. I was an electronics engineer, which means I kind of I bring this engineering discipline to the art of writing and publishing. I've probably been in your shoes. I've certainly written books that nobody's read. I have published hundreds of books. I have helped people write books. I have ghostwritten books. I've probably been where you are now, which is maybe thinking of writing a book, being in the middle of writing a book, got stuck writing a book. Okay, and maybe even having doubts about writing a book. I've also had those. And I've been running businesses. I'd class myself as a bit of an entrepreneur. I've been running my own businesses for over 25 years. Obviously, I'm not much too young for that. Off fly killing me. And I call myself like a creation coach. I'm an author and a publisher. I own a publishing company. I write books and I help. This flow is driving me mad. I help really smart people get their books written and published too. And I vowed, based on this, my knowledge for the last 20 odd years of publishing, never to write or publish a word that shouldn't be read again. And I'm not going to do that. So like this is really, really important to me. Now, just going to take a little pause there, because Lisa, fantastic. Thank you so much for making a comment. Let me just add Lisa's comment in. So Lisa says, understanding why you're writing a book is such a great entry into marketing your book. Lisa, you're absolutely spot on. When you don't know why you're writing a book and you're writing it just because everybody else is doing it, then marketing it is really bloody hard. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And if you've got any comments, anybody, or you want a question answered, pop them in the comments and I'll try and handle everybody's in the 40 minutes that I'm planning to spend with you. Okay, so Jason Fried, the founder and CEO at Basecamp, said people don't have short attention spans, they have short interest spans. Quite a lot of people say, people don't read books these days. Nobody reads a book. They don't want to read a book because, they've just got short attention spans. We've got all this running around. We've got stuff to do, short attention spans. And Jason says, no, that's not true. And I agree with Jason. It's not true. It's not about attention span. It's about interest span. If your book is written for the right person and solves their most important problem, then they will give your book the attention it deserves. It's not an attention problem, it's an interest problem. And we can solve interest problems. And I'm going to help you work out how to do that now. But the thing of it is, things have changed over the last few years. Your reader is busier than ever. And so you have to write something incredibly valuable for them that they cannot not read. That's how you get your book read. And not only that, coupled with them being busy, you're busy too. You've got 101 things to do and 101 things you could do for your business, and writing a book could be the right thing to do. But it's got to be the right book. It's got to be a book that's going to deliver on your business objectives. And Chris says, hi Chris. Chris says, today's National Buy a Book Day. Oh gosh, I thought it was yesterday and the day before and last week and next week. I buy at least one book a day. But yay, Chris, go for it. National Buy a Book Day. If you want some book recommendations, have a look on some of my clients' LinkedIn posts at the moment, because they're getting really great recommendations for books. Okay, thanks, Chris, for your comment. So things change. Your reader is busier. You're busier. and but you've still got to do things that kind of get through all of this noise that's out there. Now, talking about noise, these two screens I'm going to show you now are a bit busy. I've been comparing and thinking about the differences between the 1900s book scene and the 2000s book scene. Now, I love calling it the 1900s book scene because that makes you think of like 1901, where we had gas lamps and horses and carts in the street. But, you know, 1900s book scene was also 1999. Anyway, so previously there was a scarcity of information. So traditional books were traditionally published probably by one of the big five, and obviously they're all the beautiful and fantastic boutique and independent book publishers. But they, you know, most people we had a scarcity of information, and if you wanted your book published, you were looking to be published by a big one. Today, in the 2000s, we're not only competing with other books, we're competing with the abundance of information, as the videos and the TikToks and the YouTubes and all the different things. So we're not just competing with other books, because there is an abundance of information. If you search on Google for any problem that you might have, you're going to find somebody with an answer. Previously, in the 1900s, it makes me giggle, speed was not of the essence. We can wait, you know, I can wait till next week for the next episode of Dallas or whatever it was. I can wait till next year for a new edition of a book to come out. Now, well, we actually want it now. We want the book now. We want the solution now, usually because we're in the middle of something and we need an answer now, and we want somebody to tell us what we need to do to take those right next steps. And we want that information really fast these days. It's our expectation that we're going to get a solution fast. In the olden days, in the 1900s, size, weight, and the tiniest of fonts were indicators of value. Oh my gosh, I've got some books on my shelves, and even with my, you know, zooming goggles on and the little light on, I still can't read the font. It's so tiny. These days, ideas digital, we have them flowing all of the time. We can get ebooks and audio books and videos and response to any question on Quora in minutes. Previously, in the 1900s, the only good book was something that you could probably smack somebody over the head with, and they would, you know, pop off this mortal coil. That was what we used to class as a good book. Seriously, this fly. So forgive this. It's not normal, not really normal. These days, by the time you finish writing that gigantic book, everything has changed. Something new's come out, Facebook has done something, LinkedIn has changed the world. We are moving much faster. So by the time you finish writing these really big, heavy legacy books, things have changed, and whilst your ideas might not become obsolete, the desire for them may have. Okay, more reasons why the 1900s and the 2000s are different. 1900s, it was an analog world. We had time. Do you remember in the 1900s? You know, in the 1900s, and I'm not that old. I'm talking like 1990s. We had time to just ramble and sidetrack and chat and take our time, because people had time to read, and we didn't have on streaming Netflix dialed into our house all the time. These days, it's a digital world, and words alone just really aren't enough anymore. You need that mixture of media. And not only that, but sometimes words are too much. When you think about Twitter, you've got to get a message across in 280 characters. That's really, really fascinating and useful constraint. In the 1900s, you had time to write a legacy book. You had time to, you may have had a job for life. You may have been tenured, or you had that security behind you, and you could take the time, take a year out, write a book, take the time to do that. And these days, books tend to be side projects. They tend to be marketing projects. They tend to be things that you're adding on to all of the other things that you're doing to grow your business or to improve your life. and it's something you're just kind of squeezing in the gaps. In the 1900s, we had committed publishers who would wine and dine you and get a 3-book deal going and help new ideas come to life and surface. Now publishers want to take those people who have surfaced and write their books and have them write their books and publish their books. You the writer, you have to do it all. You have to these days be out there marketing your book, building that author platform, put your PR hat on and get out there. You cannot rely on a publisher anymore to do that for you. Some people would say you couldn't rely on them before either, but you know, it's harder now than it used to be. So with all these differences that were going on and all these changes from the last century, I just love saying that, to this century, then it is actually causing a challenge for writers to get their books read. And I want your book, if you're going to write a book, I want your book to be read, because I know you've written it for a bloody good reason. I know you've written it because you've got a really important message to get out there and that you want people to take action on, because you know if they take action on it, their lives are going to get better. Okay, so we've got to get your books read. We can't just assume you can write a book and it will just do magic tricks for you. We've got to get people to read your book. And how do we do that? We have to make that your book is not added to people's to-do lists. You know, you've got your to-do list, do a meeting, do a Zoom, do a LinkedIn Live, do this, do 5 minutes of meditation, do 7 minutes of exercise, do the cold shower, do. We've all got these to-do lists, and we're having these to-do lists, things added to them all the time. We don't want your book on a to-do list, because a to-do list they're problematic. We don't want your book to be on a to-do list, and I don't want you to write a book on your to-do list either. I want people to must read your book, and I want you to have that burning passion to write your book, because it's only when you have those burning passions and they have that burning desire that books will get read. Okay, and so we have to balance the your burning desire to write a book and their burning need for the solution that you provide in your book. And that means you won't put it on either of yours or theirs to-do list. Okay, so that's our goal, which is in order to reduce the overwhelm, rather than add it to an ever-growing to-do list, we add it to a must list. Okay, so what can we do to get your book read? Because that's what we're talking about today. Over this next 4 sessions, today we're going to talk about what do we do to get your book read. Next week, we're going to talk about who they are and how do we know what they want to read. But today we're talking about how do we get your book read. And we do that by keeping their interest. We talked about this. So it's not about attention, it's keeping their interest. We use their attention to get them to buy the book. And then we've got to keep their interest in reading your book. And basically, you need to be as Moorish as the next Netflix series. Why are Netflix series and all these series programs so Moorish? Why do people just gorge on them? It's because each episode is beautifully formed. It gives you a nice arc. You get a resolution, and a resolution to that moment, but with threads going on to the next episode. And if your book can do that, if your book can give them a resolution, help them take a next step, but give them threads to the possibilities in the future, then your book will become Moorish. Your books will become Moorish like the next Netflix series. And we do that by making things bite-sized. We make them useful, and we write life-changing content rather than copycat content or what other people are doing or because someone told you to do it. And the way of making our books Netflix deliciousness is we make them atomic, we make them valuable, we make them business growing books, and we make them have this the transformational, that they actually help people take that next step. So they help them make that transformation. And we produce atomic books. So if they only read that book, they would still take a step in the right direction. And they're valuable. Every single page in a book needs to be valuable. The whole book needs to be valuable. And that's how you get people to read your book. Okay, and it's going to be built around your expertise and their most important problem. And next week, we're going to be talking about their most important problem and why that is. If we focus on what their most important problem is rather than what you want to tell them, we're going to make books happy. Lisa, my #1 fan, love you, Lisa. As Moorish as the next Netflix series. I just wish I could say that line, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for books that people want to devour, that they binge on, that they can't stop and they want to read your next one and they want to know more about you. And now only after they've read the book, they want to read your next book, they actually want to call you and contact you and buy your program and join you on the next mastermind. So this is what we want. We want them to want more of you. Okay, so I have a tool for you. Every one of these sessions that we're running over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to give you a tool. I'm going to give you one of my techniques, one of my tools, one of the things that I use to help authors write books. And this one is called my minimum valuable asset. And it's very, very similar idea to minimum viable products. But, and this is my big caveat on MVPs. MVPs are fab. I'm an engineer by background. MVPs, getting software out there, doing it as fast as you can, breaking, go fast, break things. I've been doing that all this week. Fantastic. Minimum viable products, great. But for a book, a minimum viable product could be just a hardback book with blank pages in it. That is a book. So it doesn't work. MVP does not work for in my opinion, sorry guys, it does not work for people like us, people who are knowledge workers, who need to create value and turn them into assets. So I use minimum valuable asset, and I've registered this trademark, so you're not allowed to use it. But minimum valuable asset, so minimum, what is, your book is in that center dot, your book will become in that center dot. What is the minimum you can create? So that's fast to produce, it's easy to update, and it's low maintenance. Is if you do that, you can do it faster. Okay, how do you make it valuable to you and to them? It has to solve a problem. It has to give that transformation. And so you have to focus on what's the minimum you can do and how can that be valuable. And then you're also looking to make sure it's an asset. So there's only 3 things you've got to do. You've got to make sure it's an asset so that it has a job to do in your business. So it's not just a vanity project or an ego project. You're not doing it just because you're coach told you or you got sold on a program. You're doing it because it is an asset for your business and it has a job to do in your business, and you know what that job is. Okay, the problem with my MVA minimum valuable asset model is on the crossovers where you don't have the third item. So if you have a minimum book, so the minimum amount that you can write, and it's valuable to people, but it's not an asset, that means it's cost you too much to create before you actually make any business benefit. That means it's not got a job to do in your business. That means it's probably a vanity project, which is, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you know that that's what you're doing it because you want to do it. But if it's not an asset, then that means it's a liability. It will have cost you more than you can generate back on it. So that's the problem when it's only minimal and valuable. If it's only minimum and assetable, and it's only minimum, it's an asset, and it's not valuable, that means nobody cares, not even you care about it, and it won't get finished. If it's not valuable, you won't finish it, you won't get it done, they won't read it because it's not valuable to you and it's not valuable to them. If it's only, where have I missed? If it's only valuable and an asset, okay, this is my favorite one. It's only valuable, it's valuable, very valuable to you and very valuable to them, and it's an asset, so it has a job in your business, but it's not minimum. What does that mean? That means, yeah, you're going to create a really fantastic book. Yeah, that's going to be like the third factor, it's, the 70,000 word book. But it's going to be slow. You're not going to get it done fast enough. You're going to gold plate it. You might even procrastinate. You probably will never finish it. And they probably will never finish reading it. Okay. And our goal is that you finish writing and they finish reading. Because when they read your book, they'll get the transformation and they will tell everybody about your book. And you have built-in marketing. Okay. So, and James, thanks for joining us and for commenting. Thank you. Yeah, minimum viable book. No, minimum valuable book. Minimum viable book would just be hardcover with blank pages in. It's a book. Okay, so right. Okay, so this is the tool for you. So every time you're thinking of writing anything, if you're thinking of creating an asset for your business, whatever it is you're thinking doing, like a book, or it could be a podcast series, or it could be a course, whatever it is, run it through this process and ask yourself, is it the minimum I can possibly do to get something out there quickly while it's fresh and energetic in my mind? Is it going to be valuable to me and valuable to them? And do I know what the flipping heck I'm doing with it? Does it have a job to do in my business? Is it an asset for my business, or is it a liability? When you ask those three questions, frequently you'll find writing a book is not the right answer. Now, I think I am the only book coach in the whole wide world who tells people don't write a book. Sometimes a book isn't the right thing to do. And if you ask me, and I'll always give you an honest answer. But frequently a book is the right thing to do, and if you do it, you need to make sure it gets read, because without it being read, we're not happy bunnies. Okay, so that's the tool, minimum valuable asset. Use that as a lens for checking whatever asset you're thinking of making for your business. Okay, now I have some warnings. I've always got warnings, and I've always got rules, and I usually break both. Okay, don't be tricked into thinking that your book is a calling card that will never get thrown away. Yeah, it probably won't get thrown away. I've said your book is a calling card, it will never get. I've said it, and then I thought to myself, well, actually, a book on your. I've got my monitors sitting on 2 books. Okay, I don't want my book to sit on somebody's desk and be below the monitor. I want my book to be read. So whilst and the reason why these two are doing it is because they are third factor books. They are gigantic books. They're hardbacks. They're gigantic, and they're really helpful for lifting monitors. But that's not why the person wrote those books, and that's not why you're writing your books. So don't get tricked into thinking that, oh yeah, it's a calling card, never get thrown away. It doesn't really matter what's in it. It's just a calling card. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Don't get tricked into thinking you need the third factor to make an impact. You need a transformation to make an impact, and you can only get the transformation if they read the book. So the only way you're going to get an impact is you get them to read the book. So you've got to start with what the job to be done. Don't believe the trick with just being an author will get you the credibility you desire. Okay, because yes, being an author is a fabulous credibility clue, but it's not going to necessarily get the job to be done. You want people to read your book, because when they read your book, they'll get the transformation, you'll get the referrals, you'll get the business. Because if it was just that simple, just, you just need a calling card, third factor, get your name on the front of the book, we would go back to, like James said, the minimum viable book, and we would just make ourselves a blank book, loads of blank pages in it, and our name on the front. That's not what we're doing. We're looking to make an impact. We're looking that people will get a fantastic A to B transformation when they read your book. Okay, so how do you do that? To write a book that people read, you need to focus on the antidotes to what's going on out there, what people are telling you. You make down the purpose telling you, the coaches are telling you. It's like, just write a book, it's easy peasy, write it in a week, write it in 3 days, Okay, we need to focus on the antidotes to that, and there are 7 antidotes. One is make sure there's a business case before investing your time and money, because if there isn't, if you don't know how your book is going to be an asset, then, well, that's, you've failed test 1. So that's test 1. Test 2 is focus on what the reader needs to hear, not what you want to say. And that's what we're going to look at in next week's session. We're going to be particularly thinking about that. Number 3 is write value, not volume. So you're not being measured on how many words you've written. You're being measured on how valuable the book was to the reader, how it got the transformation. Number 4 is think before you write. It's very, very easy to get excited, enthusiastic. I do it all the time. You get like over excited, and just start writing before you've thought through all of the consequences and what you want to say and who you want to say it for and what they need, and you've not had that feedback. So we need to do a lot of thinking before you start writing. So in my 7-step process here, the first 4 don't include any writing. They include lots of thinking and planning, and getting feedback. Okay. And then number 5, use a framework for the process, not for the idea. This is where we end up with cookie cutter books, where they all look the same, they sound the same, they're solving the same problem, which is a manufactured problem. You want to use the framework, and I've got a framework to share with you, for the process of getting the book done, not for delivering the idea. Subtle but really important. And I suggest that you choose yourself and not the publisher. The publishers, traditional publishers and hybrid publishers and self-publishers, they have a timeline, they have a process, they have a system. You get to choose you. There are so many easy ways of actually getting your atomic, valuable ideas out there without waiting to be chosen. And my goal for everybody, anybody who listens to me ever, is that you produce a book that markets itself, rather than you being like the cheerleader for a book that nobody wants to read. And I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but let's make writing books worth your while and worth their while for reading them. Okay, so I'm finished. 30 minutes, that was my plan, to see if there were any questions. Next week I'm going to talk about stop guessing, how to work out who really needs your book, who that reader is, and that will help you with all of the other decisions that you need to make. So join us next week, next Wednesday, for another 30 to 40 minute session. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, I will allow you all to leave the room. Lisa, have you got a question? James, Chris, any questions, my loves? Okay, well, I think I've finished then. So join, final thing to tell you, I am going to put in the comments below, I am going to put a link, and the link will invite you into our new system, which I've been saying all week, we're building the plane and we're flying it. Okay, so it can invite you into our new system, and our new system is where you can download books, toolkits, other PDFs, the tools that I'm going to be sharing with you over the next few weeks, and also where you can have a chat with one another and talk about your own books and what you're doing, and get some feedback from people, so that rather than writing like a book that doesn't get read, you write a book that people really, really want to read. Okay. Oh, Adam, Sam, you've got a question. Go for it, Adam. Adam says, I have one. I am assuming I have one is a question. Adam, what's your question, my love? So Adam's question is, how do you cope when your lovely, small, effective publisher gets bought by Thomson Reuters, who screw up the publishing of the second edition? Well, I would say that you go and find yourself another lovely, small publishing company, or you could even self-publish. And it's really simple now, Adam. We can take this offline if you want. I've got lots of ways of helping you get that next edition published, as long as you've got publishing rights, or for you to write another book really quickly, and then you can swipe the whole problem away. But I think my best piece of advice here is don't wait to be selected. Select yourself, choose yourself. You've got these things to do. And Adam's followed up with, do you write a mini version of the same book? You could write a mini version of the same book. I wouldn't necessarily call it a mini version of the same book. This is what I would do. I would take one of the key ideas from that book, your main book, and I would create a new book with that one key idea, and it would be the one idea that's going to give the reader the biggest A to B transformation. So just take one tiny element, atomic idea, make it incredibly valuable, make it simple, so that people will share it, and they will say, hey, if you do this, your world is going to change. And then that one atomic idea in the new version of the book, the new book, will help sell the other book as well, and make your whole publisher really happy, but also will do its job in whatever that job is that you want it to do. Okay. Any more questions? If there are no more questions, next week we'll do another event. the stop guessing session. If you've got questions in advance, pop me them in advance, and I absolutely make sure that I respond to them effectively. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to end the broadcast. Pop me messages, connect with me, join us in the group, the group that I'm building as we're flying it. And, you know, I'm here. Ask me questions. I am really, really happy to answer any questions that you've got about any issues about publishing, writing, creating assets for your business. And Adam, it's lovely to see you. I haven't seen you for a very, very long time. Okay, everybody. Ciao for now.